Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us tonight. Tonight, ISIS continues its assault against Christians, and my opening statement on Washington's inability to deal with the increasing threat to America. But first, the annual Conservative Political Action Committee, CPAC, wrapped up earlier today with their traditional straw poll. Here are the results. For the third year in a row, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul takes the prize, with Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker finishing a close second. Texas Senator Ted Cruz came in third, followed by Dr. Ben Carson and former Florida Governor Jeb Bush in fifth place. And this week we saw a lot of great speeches at both CPAC and the Club for Growth. Take a look.
There comes a time in the history of nations when fear and forgetfulness cause a nation to hesitate, to waver, and perhaps even to succumb. When that time comes, those who love liberty must rise to the occasion. Will you, lovers of liberty, will you rise to the occasion?
We have a president who draws lines in the sand and fails to act. A president who calls ISIS the JV club. We need a leader in America who stands up and realizes that radical Islamic terrorism is the threat to our way of life and to all freedom-loving people around the world.
You're going to hear it directly from me and bluntly because I care. If I didn't care, there's no reason to do this.
But sit down and shut up?
Yeah, well, sometimes people need to be told to sit down and shut up.
The biggest divide we have in this country, it's not between Republicans and Democrats. The biggest divide we have in this country is between career politicians in Washington and the American people.
Oh, the naive Obama State Department. Oh, they say we can't kill our way out of war? Really? Tell that to the Nazis. Oh, wait, you can't because they're dead. We killed them.
Reagan was opposed by a prominent family who seeks to occupy the White House for the third time. The only dynasty I like is the Duck Dynasty.
If I run, I will tell you, the king of building buildings, the king of building walls, nobody can build them like Trump. That I can promise you.
I believe Hillary Clinton's abdication of responsibility, her refusal to provide an adequate defense for Benghazi, her dereliction of duty should forever preclude her from higher office. It's time for Hillary Clinton to permanently retire.
Imagine if we had a commander-in-chief that understood that the way to defeat ISIS is not to find him a job. Imagine if we had a president who doesn't travel the world bad-mouthing America. After all, that's the UN's job.
The biggest mistake I made throughout this whole process, and I've admitted it over and over again, is I was so eager to fix things, I didn't talk about them, I just came in and fixed them.
The president jammed down the throat Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, and Dodd-Frank, and the stimulus, but we have fought in a principled way, increased overreach. He's now using his executive power to try to carry out his agenda. But over time, we have to start being for things again. There are a lot of other conservatives that haven't been asked. They don't know that they're conservative. If we share our enthusiasm and love for our country and belief in our philosophy, we will be able to get Latinos and young people and other people that you need to win to get 50.
They are a religious movement that seeks to take the world back to the 7th century. And it is their stated vow to kill as many Americans as possible. We didn't start this war, nor did we choose it, but we will have the will to finish it.
With me now, Republican Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn, who spoke at CPAC this week. Good evening, Congresswoman. Rand Paul wins the straw poll for the third straight year. Your reaction?
I am not surprised at all. He was well received, and that really is a crowd. They love Rand Paul. They love Ted Cruz. They love Marco Rubio, the youth, the energy, and it is a very conservative, libertarian-leaning group.
It seems like they also loved the number 2, who came in the straw poll, Scott Walker.
They certainly did. And, you know, Judge, I think if you were saying who of the governors is kind of leading the way, it is Scott Walker. People appreciate so much the job that he did in Wisconsin, how he took on the unions and how he just got the job done, kept plowing through it. That is going to serve him very well as he goes through this process.
Well, you were there this week, Congressman. Who were the speakers that impressed you the most?
Well, I tell you, I think Sarah Palin did a great job. It was a serious speech. Carly Fiorina did a great job also. I was pleased to see how well so many of our people did. Donald Trump always ignites a crowd. Rand Paul just is trying to beef up his foreign policy bona fides, if you will, and so many people focused on that. Everybody did a great job. That's a great thing. There are plenty of options for 2016. The mood is serious. People are focused, and they want to make certain that we win this thing.
How big an issue do you think immigration is going to be in the selection of the Republican nominee for president?
I think immigration is going to be right there at the top. I think you could put border security, immigration, and actually probably the security agenda all told. National security, retirement security, economic security, job security. You're hearing a lot about that, and immigration is a part of that.
Do you think, Congresswoman, that might be the reason that Governor Jeb Bush came in 5th?
It may have been. I don't know. I do know this. People want to make certain that we get it right, that we secure the border first, and that we rein in President Obama's executive amnesty. People will say, you know, he doesn't have that authority. That belongs to Congress. So we want to see Congress step back in and fix this process.
And what about terrorism? What about national security? I mean, after immigration, national security, Americans are very concerned about that. Which of the candidates do you think spoke strongly about the need for a strong strategy from this country?
Yeah, and that security component with the terrorists, you heard that repeatedly. And Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, several of them brought that up. You heard Rand Paul's remarks there. And that desire for people to see America again, peace through strength, going out here, defining the problem, defining the war, fighting it, and winning it. And this is where I thought Sarah Palin did a terrific job, as she brought the focus back to the veterans and the problems that are there, and not to forget about that. It was a different type speech for her. I thought it was right on the mark.
But who of the candidates do you believe has the most experience to deal with the issue of terrorism?
When you're looking at experience in a foreign policy realm, it's going to be someone who has been at the federal level. I do think that the governors that are there, Governor Walker and others, are going to be able to bring in people that will help them to develop the expertise that is necessary and assemble a team.
But they're not at the federal level. You just said
they're not. They're not. And it is people that have been in the House and the Senate that have had that experience of working through those policy issues, dealing with the issues of the UN, dealing with the issues of foreign policy, and with the DOD. But I think the governors are going to do a great job of bringing people to help them develop the expertise. So much of it is how you make your decisions and the matrix that you work from. And I certainly believe that you're going to see them develop that and bring forward solutions, which is what people want to hear.
All right, Congresswoman Blackburn, thanks so much for being with us this evening.
Thank you.
All right. And with me now, Republican strategist and Fox News contributor David Webb and Democratic strategist Chris Kofinas. All right, gentlemen, your take on Rand Paul winning this evening. I'll start with you, David.
Well, I'll tell you, there was not really much of a surprise there, Judge. After all, Rand Paul has gotten that, strong libertarian grassroots CPAC base. The surprise story tonight, though, Governor Scott Walker, who didn't put much into it and still comes in second. And I would say that a third part of this would be Jeb Bush, who came there, got a lot of boos in the beginning, but turned the audience around as he got a little deeper into issues, including immigration, and started getting applause. So Rand Paul, not a surprise win, but I think the surprise there is that Governor Walker did well and Jeb Bush coming in at number 5, but still turning the crowd around.
Let me just ask you a question. You said something interesting, that Scott Walker didn't put much into it. What did you mean by that?
Well, he didn't have this notably large group coming in and saying, okay, we're all here, we're going to push for him, the kind of the way Rand Paul and Ron Paul would do it. You know, that group that would come in and they would go out, they'd make a lot of noise. The Rand Paul supporters were there. The Ben Carson supporters were there. Certainly Governor Walker had his, but he didn't have obvious support. And it shows that he's gotten a lot of attention recently, and that has helped him show. And he went up there and delivered.
Chris, I'm going to go to you. Are you surprised Rand Paul, third year in a row, wins?
No, I'm not surprised. His hope, I mean, as kind of, if you will, the leader of the libertarian wing of the Republican Party, he's got a pretty strong young following. It's kind of unique in that way. So I'm not surprised by it that much. I don't think it really means anything, to be honest.
You know, that young following worked for Barack Obama.
Yeah, well, the question is, does it work for Senator Paul in the Republican primary? Now, if you watch his speech and the way he talks about intervention and the way he talks about foreign policy, it doesn't mesh really well with, some of the other Republicans up there were being very hawkish, very interventionist, in their tone. So you're going to see this play out in glowing colors, and just another, to me at least, example. There's some real strong divisions within the Republican Party that you're not going to find a middle ground on. You're not going to find a middle ground between Rand Paul's vision for foreign policy and, let's say, Scott Walker's vision for foreign policy, or Jeb Bush's.
I completely disagree with that, Judge. Look, this is the thing about CPAC and what it represents. We have something that the left does not. We actually have a confab where, whether you're a libertarian all the way to isolationism, social conservative, neocon, and everywhere in between, come together. And there are areas where there's an overlap and agreement. But what I saw here, and having been on the ground with this from day one, is that people are having a discussion on the issues. It goes to why the straw poll this year was very much more effective under Kellyanne Conway and the polling company, because she dealt in issues instead of just the straw poll about the president, how people responded on issues of the economy, how they responded on immigration, on national security, on social issues.
Well,
so it's easy to just say either or, but these issues are not an either or proposition.
David, let me ask you one question. Hold on, Chris. The question I have, David, is what is the most important issue to the Republicans and to the American people? Let me do it more generically. What is it?
Right now, that answer, Judge, and based on what happened at CPAC, it's the economy and national security as you break down the polling data, but also as you talk to the people, as I did, who were there, talk to the activists, talk to the groups. People want to be able to afford a life, have a good life, and they want the security
economy,
of knowing that
national
their life
security. Chris,
absolutely.
Your take? What are the most important issues to the American people?
For the most part, the issues stay relatively the same in terms of economy, national security. That's not where really the question. The question is, what are the policies that are going to solve the problems in those issues? And when you watch some of these speeches, listen, it's not going to be a surprise that I say this, but I didn't hear anything different that you wouldn't have heard the last how many years? How many last decades? And the difference I think the Republican Party is still struggling with is national elections during presidential years are very different than midterm elections. And unless they find a way to appeal to the different demographics that come into those election years, they can't win. And when you look at Rand Paul and Walker and others...
let me get this final thing in there. The American people are not happy with the way foreign policy is being handled.
They may not, but they may not. Let's say I just cede you the point that they're not happy. In terms of a national election in a presidential year, that is not going to be the defining issue. If Republicans go out, listen, I hope they do. If they go out and they make foreign policy the key issue, I mean, I hate to tell you that even in the CPAC conference, Republicans, libertarians were supporting a non-interventionist foreign policy.
Well, you know what, Chris is wrong on this because he's putting it in the hands of just the politicians. The American people, you can laugh all you want, but it's the American people.
What I'm laughing about is
hang on, Chris,
let me finish, Chris. The American people And this is not about what happens at CPAC. They're defining the issues based on the realities before them. There is a healthy debate to be had about foreign policy, but there's a healthy debate to be had about what is the right foreign policy footing for a world where American leadership has withdrawn, and it affects our domestic security and our national security abroad. So a global threat exists, and that's a key issue.
Thanks so much for being with us this evening.
Great to be with you, Judge.
All right. And up next, my opening statement and vote in tonight's Insta poll. Why is the world not stopping the continuing assault against Christians in the Middle East? Facebook or tweet me at Judge Jeanine, #JusticeOnFox.